fix clock. I found a way back in. We can save them all. But I need to go back to the Backrooms.
Did you guys like Kane Parson's Backrooms? I loved it. I'd rate it 6 or 7 out of well, I should have expected this. Hey, well, while I'm here, did you want to talk about the movie? The Backrooms movie was full of themes and such. Some of them are obvious, like getting stuck in mental loops or past trauma. Some are a little less obvious, like people putting on performances or people being shaped by their environment. Everyone has an opinion on this movie, and that's a good thing. It's a movie that you're able to pull a lot of interpretations out of, and most of the ones I've seen have been pretty good. But, oh boy, is there a lot out there. So I wanted to talk about some of the major themes as I see them. Maybe some of the things I think a few people have missed. Hang on, what's that? Can you hear that? It sounds like a message from today's video sponsor, Manta Sleep. Wake up, Michael. We've got to do an ad read. Sleep is pretty important, don't you agree, Michael? I always struggle with it, but you know what helps? Sleep masks. I've actually used sleep masks for years, so I was pretty happy to try out one from Manta Sleep, and look, no joke, it's the best one I've ever used. Circadian rhythm, blue light, extra daytime in summer, etc., etc. Look, your sleep sucks. You need good sleep, and sleep masks help with it. It's that simple. And look, I love a good nap. I'm even #pro-nap. Trying to nap during the day is a pain when you can't block out the light in the brighter days of summer, but Manta sleep masks are awesome for that. They're really comfortable, there's no pressure on the eyes, it's straight up pitch black, and it's easy to wear. I have the Manta Sound sleep mask, and the speakers sound great, and look at this, it's super thin, that's really awesome. And it's got Michael's approval. If you want a great sleep mask, Manta Sleep are giving you 10% off if you use code Mythonics while you order. Right now, you have to order right now. Click the link in the description if you want a cool sleep mask, and or you want to see me torment Michael some more. Thank you very much, Manta Sleep, for sponsoring today's video. And now, back to the Backrooms. The movie starts with someone from the mysterious company Async running through the Backrooms. It's the classic start of a horror movie to show you that, yes, there will be some scary stuff happening later, so just trust us for now. It's very cool and, oh, did you hear that? Oh heck. So, what are the Backrooms, you ask? Don't ask that, you already know what it is. In a literal sense, it's an area outside of normal space that you can slip into by accident. An endless maze of old office building rooms that are not quite right. Kane Parsons made a web series about it. It blew up and then he made this movie. It's not necessary to watch the web series before the movie, but it makes the experience better. Or watch it after, like I did. It's pretty good. The movie lays out what the Backrooms actually are a little more explicitly than the web series. It's a place where memories are given form. What is that? It's one of those async cavemen. Oh, I know this person. That's Yoro. She's a bit... Anyway, what's she saying?
Hi, I'm Yoro. I'm not really a Backrooms lore sort of person. I walked into the movie with little knowledge of what was going on, aside from the fact that Ulterior Motives is from a 1986 porno. Out of my realm, I prefer the gay stuff. But one thing I loved was this implication that the Backrooms isn't just a place, it's a thing. It's this strange entity that remembers you. It's not inherently malevolent. Most of the still lifes, except for Captain Clark's scary ass, just sort of sit there. Like Lamp Guy. He was exceptionally chill. He even turned on mood lighting during Clark's roleplay session. Like, what an all-star. The Backrooms look at something and try to remember it. Its weird, liminal spaces are just memories of people, places, and things that it came into contact with. It's the emulation of trying to remember something from a long time ago. Try to picture an old elementary school teacher you had. You probably have a vague idea of their features. Their hair color, distinctive features like glasses or a beard or unique jewelry they wore. But do you remember what color marker they used to write on the board? How they called your name? Do you remember the sound of their laugh? That amorphous, blurry version of them you have in your head, that's what the Backrooms remember.
Well, that's pretty cool, Async are doing VTuber crossovers now. Maybe I should hit them up. But anyway, Yoro raises a good point that the memories start to get blurrier and blurrier over time. At one point, the male lead, Clark, says that it remembers things and people, and every time it remembers them, the memory gets a little blurrier. But it's not so much that the place itself is remembering them, but that it seems to be drawing from the memories of people. In the movie, that's mostly Clark. The Backrooms are eerie, right? Eeriness is when there is something where there shouldn't be, or nothing when there should be something. That's from the book The Weird and the Eerie by Mark Fisher. Backrooms is kinda, well, it's both, isn't it? The endlessly repeating rooms are nonsense. Walls, doors, windows, furniture in wrong spots, but still, they should be filled with people, and there's nobody there. You can't help but ask, what is this place? Why is it here? What is it for? That speculation is an important part of eeriness. It's the unknown that you want to understand. The main theme of the movie, in my opinion, other than the most obvious one of loops, is nostalgia media. In a sense, we're living in the ruins of another age, where almost every new piece of media is either recycled old content, like massive franchises like Star Wars, or is explicitly nostalgic, like Stranger Things. The only escape is online, but even then, so much of it is rooted in nostalgia, like PS2 aesthetics, pixel art, analog horror, and such. We're trapped in a haunted house with the ghosts of the past, and we don't want to leave. At the start of the movie, kind of what we saw with the guy running around, but definitely the part after, it's very drenched in symbolism. The movie is in the genre elevated horror. I hate that term. We're not going to call it that. Art house horror. It's an art house horror movie. There's themes and whatnot. The start really lays it on, so you have to pay attention in particular because the whole movie is being set up here. The themes may be a little obvious at times. I mean, there's a scene where they literally explain the whole movie to you at one point, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I consider it a good entry-level art house horror, which is probably smart, considering they knew a bunch of teenagers and their disinterested parents would be watching. But still, it allows for lots of interesting connections and discussions, which I think is a mark of effective art. For a brief refresher, the male lead is Clark, an alcoholic failed architect, not a failed architect, going through a tough time and stuck selling furniture in a store that nobody buys from. He has a lot of trauma and anger issues about his past failures, including his wife leaving him and taking the house he's still paying for. The female lead is Mary, his therapist, and her trauma is about her mentally ill mother who kept her locked indoors until she was eventually institutionalized. The mother, that is. Mary pretends she's gotten over it, but she really hasn't. You know, loops. The Backrooms movie is drenched in symbolism, and going over it with a fine-tooth comb is warranted, but we'll jump around a little to hit the more interesting parts for our discussion today. After the chase scene, we hear a self-help tape made by Mary, explaining that we have loops, habits, built up since our childhood to protect us from trauma, and eventually we find it hard to leave those loops when they no longer fit our needs. We think the same methods will give us new results. We hear this while we watch Mary reminiscing about her and her mother leaving handprints in the concrete, while she watches her childhood home get demolished to make way for a new high-rise building. Then we watch Clark going to work at his furniture store, with the word "rip-off" graffitied on the door. Something I'd like to point out here is that Mary very obviously has an odd accent that is very obviously not American. Most of the main actors here are actually not from the US. Mary's actress is Norwegian, Clark's actor is British with Nigerian parents. Likewise, the actors for Kat and Bobby are foreign too. I think this was intentional. It adds a subtle sense of distance. Mary's voice in particular having a strong sense of being an outsider of a kind. We see Mary in Clark's therapy session, which shows a lot about Clark's personality. Angry, drinks a lot, stuck in the past, you know it. But it also shows us a lot about Mary too. As the movie continues, it becomes obvious that Clark is struggling to overcome his demons. Mary's trying to help him with her treatment, but she's making him do the same exercises over and over, and they're clearly not helping. I think between this scene and the shots of her tape and book, I think the movie's trying to suggest that Mary is in her own loop in the therapy, that she's trying to apply the same solutions to every person and all of their problems. She seems quite successful, so most of the time it probably works, but it doesn't all the time. Anyway, the ad recording scene gives us more key parts of Clark's personality. He uses people, only seeing his work as how they're useful to him. It also highlights his mishmash personality. Bobby outright asks what the deal is with the store theme, being a mash-up of a pirate and a sultan. Is that? Hang on, Lappin. What do you think about the Backrooms?
Oh yeah. I like Pirate Clark because he's cool and he's a pirate, and I really like that the ads on the television, you know, the TV ads that he's always watching, those on the TV, they remind me of when I was younger and I would watch TV. And also I like that Pirate Clark. It's funny, he's a pirate. He goes, "Arr!"
Thank you, Lappin.
I also like the fact that his actor is British, and that's really funny because you wouldn't think that he was British. Did you know that he was British? And
okay,
I thought that was really interesting. It's really interesting that he was able to act that way. Did you know that a lot of the actors are actually British?
Thank you, Lappin.
I didn't know that.
All right,
anyways, when I was in the theater,
I gotta go. Anyway, like I think Lappin was trying to say, Clark's outfit and general vibe is just someone who took a lot of his life and personality from the TV. Like his furniture store theme being similar to the cowboy store, or his therapist being from TV ads too. Mary was actually watching her own ad on TV, and we see that she kept a concrete handprint from her demolished home. Her mother's hand. The past in general is a major theme in the movie. For the main characters, it's primarily due to their unresolved trauma making them get stuck in loops, but it's a bit more than that. Architecture is human technology, and the Backrooms is the memory of architecture. Mary's mother's handprint is that distilled into a single form. Negative past memories reaching out through time. The handprint is architecture made into memories, and the Backrooms is memory made into architecture, closing the loop on the two ideas. In effect, what this is humans shaping the outer world by building, which shapes their inner world through memory. Art and technology are clear examples of this, with both drastically changing our minds and thought processes. Perhaps it's better to say that technology is being used to manage distance and time. Multiple times furniture is used as a weapon or a barricade or slows people down when they're running away. Communications technology like the cameras, TVs, tapes and ads, and even things like art, send information over long distances and across time. Mary and her mother's handprints aren't just handprints, really. They're cries for connection across time, like a caveman painting their hand on the wall of a cave. The thing is, Mary took the handprint that her mother made, but she didn't take her own. The subtle implication being that she had a choice, to try to save her mother or to try and save herself, and she chose her mother. When Clark goes into the Backrooms for the first time, it's a slow-burning, thoughtful scene with almost no dialogue. It's fantastic. I think people, and honestly myself a little bit, were expecting a more normal style horror movie where someone falls in and they can't get out and now they're chased around by a monster. Kind of like the first found footage Kane did on YouTube, but I'm glad he went for the art house horror style because then you get more interesting scenes like this and, frankly, more discussion too. So the Backrooms is liminal, right? What the hell does that mean? A liminal space is one that's designed for transition. You're not supposed to stop there but keep moving, like a hallway, a road, an airport, mostly airports, the spots where you walk, you know what I mean. When nobody's there, they become very eerie, because they lack something they're supposed to have. But liminal also means a space of transition, right? So, where are you going? The Backrooms is a double whammy. They don't have people, but they feel like they should, and they don't have obvious reasons for people to be there, but they almost do. It feels like just around each corner you'll find all the people and all the reasons to be here, but you don't. The Backrooms is made more eerie by the idea that it's infinite. It's a space of unrealised potential, a building that nobody lives in, that has no purpose and it has no end. It's like peering into the mind of an architect. So after Clark explores, he escapes and we cut to the next scene. Multiple times now, we've had gorgeous shots of nature looming over the city or the sky burning bright blue above. Almost every shot in this movie has a person dwarfed and intimidated by nature or, more often, the architecture, with walls and ceilings looming over them. The juxtaposition of nature and architecture and man feels almost like environmental pressure. In the past, people were living in and shaped by nature, but now they build their own places to live in and are now shaped by them instead. Each character's space is a reflection of them, and with the previous point in mind, they are a reflection of the space. Kat and Bobby, the two never-serious university students, live in what appear to be toy houses. Mary's office is warm, but the perspective lines draw your vision like a TV, the clients being observed like a show for Mary. Clark's shop is massive and open, filled with furniture for other people's lives, and his own office is tiny and cramped. The Backrooms itself is our mental interior, but also an inverted space. Instead of architecture shaping us, we shape the architecture. It's where civilization ends, and it's primal in the sense that it goes deeper into our minds, past the layers of consciousness that we've built up over millennia. It's saying that, yes, man fights against nature, but man fights against his own creations too. Both nature and our own society loom over us and force us to conform to them. It's in this sense that we often see people looming over others in the movie. In Mary's memories, we see her mother looming over her when she wanted to open a window, impressing into her that the outside is dangerous. It's the same as when both of them loomed over the wet concrete at the start, moulding its shape by pressing themselves into it. And that flows into another theme, human organisation. Async is a tech startup working with the government to develop the Backrooms, and they seem to represent humanity united against, well, whatever we need to unite against. In this case it's the Backrooms, but it's how we defeated nature too. But they, quite literally, loom over other humans. It's a subtle threat. The same threat posed by architecture and by nature. If you can't beat me, you have to conform to my will. In the next scenes, where Clark returns to the Backrooms for research with Kat and Bobby, it contains the scene where Kat is behind a window that Clark can't see. The metaphor is a little blatant here, with all the talk of loops and windows and such. Clark uses people, but he doesn't really let them into his life, and as we see later, he maybe even uses her body for food. Clark isn't a good guy. You could even fairly say that he's a bad guy at the start, I think, and definitely by the end. But the movie handles it in an interesting way. At the start, his worst actions are in the past, and while they shape him now, he's trying to get better, so you want to root for him. He's a very human character, and the monster is his past, but his struggle is that he kind of likes the past. He kind of likes the monster. Mary isn't free of this affliction either, I think. It's a little more obscure than Clark's is, but I believe the intended reading of Mary's character is that she uses helping others as a way to soothe her trauma of not being able to help her mother. In turn, that trauma is really worry about her own mental state, that she herself might succumb to the mental illness her mother had. When her treatment doesn't work, she doesn't want to accept that and will keep repeating it like a cassette tape, like we see in her treatment of Clark. Well, it kind of has to work. And look, I'm not saying that Clark isn't shirking responsibility, he obviously is, and that he's actually a good guy, which he obviously isn't, but Mary didn't really try to engage with Clark, despite him almost begging her to. Clark reached out to Mary for help, and her treatment only made it worse. It's no wonder he took a chance to escape when he could. Mary was right to be terrified when entering the Backrooms. It's a reflection of his mind, and she hasn't really gone there before. Anyway, when Clark tries to figure out how to let Kat in, the monster picks up the camera and films him instead. The whole investigation segment is where the analog horror ancestry really shines through, although the movie as a whole was a fantastic blend of analog horror and movie horror. The real genius in analog horror isn't just the aesthetic, though that is important, but that horror in real life is experienced slowly. And something that is interesting or exciting can be terrifying when you realise its full scope. This was clear in the earliest and the biggest examples of analog horror, from fastest available route to Mandela Catalogue through Skinamarink and even Urban Spook's Painter. This concept is taken from weird fiction and cosmic horror and applied to a more modern setting. Well, almost modern, they're usually set in the 90s or 2000s. Months after the failed research expedition, Clark calls Mary and says that he won't be coming back. He's opened a window. The window is a major theme of the movie in general. It's framed as a way to enter or leave a loop, but being a window, it also allows one to look in or look out. A piece of communication technology that doesn't exist in nature. When you observe or watch something, you're changed by it. The window that one watches through then isn't just for observations, it's a way to fall in, but you can't climb out. It's like async watching everywhere, but of course, they're not just watching, they're in the Backrooms too. It's Clark watching the TV and being so easily influenced by it, or Mary watching Clark and ending up snared by him. Throughout the movie, the angles in many shots lead the eye, sometimes with harsh wall angles or even framing what you're supposed to be looking at in a square, like a TV. It's also in scenes like Clark sitting in Mary's office while she's observing him, or the steep slopes in the throne room like a camera lens hood, or even the slope leading into the laundry room while Bobby films. It gives a strange feeling of being observed in the backrooms. And when you're being observed and you know it, then you act differently. You hide your true self and you perform. That performance is managing how others perceive you, like Clark wanting people to think he's right, or Mary taking pills to calm herself at a party, and both with their TV ads. Like Clark and Mary hide their trauma, many characters at least mask themselves. Mary's mother with her own pills, Kat, Bobby and Phil going by nicknames rather than their real names, and of course the async staff wearing their face-covering suits. Clark does this explicitly in the dinner scene. Not only is Mary positioned against a dark, crooked wall, but Clark brings a multi-eyed still life to sit in front of the window and watch everything closely. So Mary enters the backrooms for the first time, which is analogous to entering Clark's mind, something which she has refused to do until now. She finds the mural, gets knocked out. We see a really cool shot of fading into the backrooms. It might be the best shot in the movie. Anyway, the dinner scene. This is a contentious scene because it lays bare most of the themes, and a few people thought it was too obvious, but other people missed the theme, so maybe it wasn't. The dinner scene as a whole is great though. It's one of the best in the movie. In of itself, it's a pretty common style scene to have in most horror movies, right? But in the tradition of analog horror, it reveals a slow burn that was there the whole time. Captain Clark is Clark. He's been Clark the whole time, with his anger and drunken stumbling, but he's also becoming one with the backrooms themselves, wearing its yellow walls and merging with the furniture. Mary is not that different from Clark in the end, although her method of coping is at least usually more helpful than his, but it's more destructive when it isn't, because as a therapist she works with damaged people and helping the wrong way leads to real harm. When she finally understood that she couldn't help him, instead of trying to find a way out together, she just tells him, well, tough luck, you're not going to change. That allowed him to fully sink into the backrooms and resulted in him being consumed by his negativity and past, quite literally. Again, I don't want to say this absolves Clark of his own duty to himself, but as his therapist, she had a responsibility for him in a situation that she arguably put him in. This is only half of Mary's revelation, though. Right now, she's still a scared kid stuck in her mother's house. Rejecting Clark was rejecting her mother, but she still couldn't see him for who he was, even if it was a good step for dealing with her own trauma. The chase scene that follows kinda double dips on that. She's chased by Captain Clark, twists her ankle on the couches, coincidentally similar to her office couch, begins limping like the captain, then breaks a concrete handprint on his head to escape. It's not a bad scene or anything, but it feels like the same moment for Mary as the dinner scene, just embodied.
Hey, who's there?
Wait, Nate? What are you doing here?
I'm doing pretty good. Just got home after seeing the Backrooms movie. Where are you? I can't see you.
Oh man, you saw the Backrooms? I did too. What do you think of it?
Okay, way to dodge the question, but overall I liked it. In fact, I have some thoughts. Well, Clark says the Backrooms copy things all throughout the outside world. But most copies, as we see, are far more dissonant and underdeveloped than the real thing. All of their behavior is incredibly basic, like a toy with a few preset actions programmed in, real push the button to hear me talk kind of stuff. But Pirate Clark, it's far more developed than anything else we see. Now, I think the reason for this is that Clark was situated right above a portal, so the Backrooms had more to work off when copying him, and it does this until that moment where he accepts the part of himself that wants to remain there, so he's no longer an interesting object of study for the rooms, as he's beginning to move away from what it's been trying to copy, that depressed, self-loathing individual. So now he's an anomaly that's no longer of any use for what this copy represents. And Pirate Clark doesn't just eat him, it slams him the hell around. It's pissed. Or that's my theory anyway.
Oh,
I could also go into how...
Sorry man, I gotta go. I think something hurt us.
Wait, what do you mean something hurt us?
Oh, okay. Well, Nate raised an interesting question. What the heck was Captain Clark anyway? I have a bit of a different take than Nate for this, though. The film shows off the still lives, which are memories of people the Backrooms make in the same way it remembers architecture. Which is to say, increasingly poorly over time and likely prefers ones with emotional attachments. The exact rules of how still lives work isn't exactly clear. We have 3 kinds we've seen. Captain Clark, the stuffing-filled ones at the dinner, and one more in the web series. They all seem pretty different, actually. I think the Captain is different because Clark sees himself as human and others as, well, a little less than that. When we remember, we focus on the emotional highs, positive and negative. Like the Backrooms, over time those memories get sanded down to be purer, in a sense, especially if you keep reminiscing or ruminating on them over and over again. It wasn't a good day, it was the best day, and so forth. The Captain is Clark's memory of himself, all the worst parts, being looped over again and again until he became a true monster. When Clark decided he didn't want to get better, and wanted to be consumed by negativity, it severed the last small bit of goodness that was a wall between him and the Captain, so the Captain consumed him. In the sense that Captain is the past Clark, this is the fate of all unescaped loops. The past devouring the future. Yeah, so after the dinner scene, Mary is running around, basically giving us a tour of her mind. She crawls through a pet door because she couldn't ever open the door to escape her trauma as an adult, and now that her past and present have merged, she has to address her child self openly for once, being forced to literally make herself smaller to crawl through a pet door to escape. It opens to a pit cut in the Backrooms, immediately below a copy of Clark's store. If the Backrooms reflects our minds, then what does this massive pit being here while we're digging into Mary's mind say? Well, reversal is an idea that comes up a bit, like the reverse stop sign. The pit is a reversed tower, like the one that is being built where Mary's house was knocked down. Like the tower is an attempt to control the sky, the pit is an attempt to control the Backrooms, the mind, by digging through it. It's no coincidence that Async has set up a trap immediately above this that, if it all goes well, will result in the capture of the Captain and give them more opportunities to study the Backrooms. Mary, in her current path of digging through her own mind, needs to return to her childhood home. Since it's destroyed and now underneath the tower, she needs to go downwards. Which is reversed, so it's upwards. But this inverse tower is pulling triple duty here. It's not just Mary in her own mind or Async's hubris, but also a representation of Clark. Immediately above the pit and remembered in perfect clarity is Clark's furniture store as it was before he found the Backrooms. It's a facade, a space where a pirate sultan stumbles around tripping over furniture, but underneath it is nothing. After Mary smashes her mother's handprint and almost completes her journey, she's rescued by Async and dragged into an interrogation room. An interview room. The interrogator, Phil, is the perfect bureaucrat trying to do his job and build rapport with someone, with the sword of Damocles hanging over both their heads. Async really have no idea what the Backrooms are at this point. They're an MRI company, and they understand the physical side of the brain very well, but not what actually happens in there. It's like trying to understand what a TV show is by taking apart a TV. Half the equation is missing. It's pretty explicitly a reverse of Mary's therapy scenes. But Phil kinda has no idea. He's as scared as her, and the anonymous watchers through the one-way mirror limit what he can actually say. It's a scene that makes clear that the watcher is also the watched, and that while Mary was observing Clark put on a front for her, he was watching her put on a front for him. There's no such thing as one-way communication. It's probably at least partially why she smiles at the end here during the interview. She's finally understanding what it's like to have someone try and analyse you without trying to engage. Her still life shown at the end shows that she was at the absolute end of her rope, and all her interrogator had to offer were questions he already knew the answer to, with a vague threat that should be taken away. It's patronising and humiliating at best, and at worst will tip her over the edge. It's quite literally what happened to Clark, and Mary finally understands that now. Now, Mary's still life is trapped in the Backrooms, as the world fades away around her. This is what she saw happen to her mother, and was terrified of happening to herself. And now, the loop is complete. And then the movie ends. Banger, right? So the last image is really interesting because it's how Mary remembers this moment. She's straight up not having a good time despite keeping calm on the surface, and look, there's that masking again, right? It does give us a little more information how the Backrooms keeps memories, though. It looks like it keeps stronger memories, and stronger memories are, of course, the ones attached to heightened emotions. Everything else about the room fades away, but not her distress. And, oh, I remember this guy. It's, Sepha. He's working on that game, Project Spiral. What's he saying?
For me, the Backrooms nailed this feeling of indescribable, like, sort of nostalgic weirdness or unnaturalness. It's like this feeling of an old familiarity, but when you revisit that time or place, it just doesn't feel quite right. And it's a very compelling theme, and it invites a lot of exploration, but in general, it's really hard to pull something like this off without being cheap, and the Backrooms absolutely nailed it.
Sepha's right about nostalgia, right? It's looking back at the good things of the past and forgetting everything else. But it's not always good emotions one latches onto. One might ruminate on a bad memory or lament sad memories. It's not a bad thing in of itself, and honestly can be sometimes cathartic to revisit old, even negative memories, but it can be dangerous if you neglect the present to focus on the past. The concept of hauntology refers to this happening in culture as a whole. Specifically, it refers to the return or persistence of elements from the social or cultural past, as if to haunt the present. Mark Fisher, who we mentioned before, took it from Derrida. Fisher used it to discuss ideas related to temporal disjunction, retrofuturism, cultural memory, and the persistence of the past. Basically, it describes being haunted by the ghost of what you could have been. Even just that sentence makes it obvious how it relates to the movie, right? Hauntology is about a culture that cannot look forward because it is too obsessed with repeating the past. You have obvious things like the nostalgia boom with Stranger Things, or in anime with series like Polar Opposites, or especially something like Zombieland Saga. Also the recent lore gamebook trend started by Plastaboo's Vermis, and retro-style games being ridiculously popular for over a decade now. Maybe you're familiar with the trend of dreamcore, where people use images and music that sound retro and nostalgic, but actually they aren't. Another big one is the album series Everywhere at the End of Time by The Caretaker. You may have seen YouTubers react to it, but in short, it's a series of albums exploring the concept of memory decay and Alzheimer's disease through a set of songs that decay over several albums. One of the songs from the albums is even straight up in the movie, in the scene where Mary's mother is in the institution. It suggests that an emphasis on nostalgia in media is a kind of decaying mind. It relives past glories over and over, each time remembering a little less until they become vague blurs, but the thing about nostalgia is that it's the present looking backwards in a loop. We cannot relive or change the past no matter how much we want, so the only option is to leave the loop. Oh, I get it now, okay. Most people didn't even realise that the Backrooms movie was set in 1990 because so little has changed, but that was 36 years ago. It's set before I was even born. The director wasn't even born then. If in the 90s you made a movie set 36 years before, that'd be 1954. That's like an entirely alien culture. And look, hang on, what was that? And look, I don't think we've had absolutely zero progress, obviously not. But specifically in terms of cultural output, as in the media we produce, it does feel like we're just spinning our wheels sometime. We're no stranger to this throughout history. In fact, the breakneck pace of the cultural change during the 20th century was almost unprecedented, but our state in the afterglow is a little different than it was beforehand. In the past, the youth had their own spaces. Physical spaces, I mean. Maybe you had to have the same books, music, etc. as your parents, but at least you could go to a dance or adventure with other youths. And you'd have an almost guaranteed life track if you wanted it. A job, a house, a family. You had a place with your name on it. And now what? There are no guarantees for anything anymore. Culture spins around in a circle, but the only outlet is the internet. And people do produce amazing things there, don't get me wrong, but internet culture is in a permanent state of reacting to mainstream culture because the vast majority of attention and money still flows there. And why wouldn't it? They make new works to appeal to the same generation they did 20 years ago because that generation still has money to spend. Nostalgia, then, is an overwhelming presence that people can't help but react to, and online media is as drenched in it as the mainstream. The computer is a window to escape, but only half of you. The other half is still in the material world. We're trapped in a haunted house with a ghost of the past, and the doors are locked. We're running around and around in circles hoping that maybe this time we'll end up somewhere new, but nothing changes. All we can do is hope that someone opens a window. Okay, I get it now. So, what is the Backrooms movie about? It's about a damaged man with no sense of self, who has lost everything he valued in his life, mostly due to his own actions for which he takes no responsibility, who only sees people as tools for his own ends, and is obsessed with his past failures. He performs the action of what he thinks he should do, based on what he sees on TV. He copies his competitors, he buys the tapes on those ads, but it's still not working, so he copes by losing himself in the past and in his drinking. Then, he finds in the Backrooms an opportunity to sink into a comfortable nostalgia, a world where he doesn't have to perform for anyone anymore. So, he lets go. It's about a damaged woman who suffered from her mother's mental illness, a mother who locked her away from the world before ending up in an institution. The woman dedicates her adult life to helping others the way she couldn't help her mother, the way she's worried she'll need help, acting the picture of a healthy mind and person. All the while, the ghost of her mother's illness hangs over her, and she projects it onto her patients, until she is dragged into a place where she is forced to perform, but instead confronts her own failures. But by then, she's too late. But the real message is, don't trust therapists. No, I'm kidding. There's probably at least one good one out there. The real message is, don't trust TV or the internet. And definitely don't trust furniture store salesmen. And definitely don't trust YouTubers. Oh wait, blue tape! Yes! We can finally go home. So what do you think? What's the Backrooms about all of what I just said? Anything I missed? I feel like there may have been. It's a very pliable movie. Thank you again to the sponsor of today's video, Manta Sleep. If you need a good sleep mask, then make sure to use the link in the description and my promo code MYTHONICS at checkout. Thank you to the special guests in this video who were, in order, Yoro Yoyo, the cardboard cutout. She has a brand new album that's just come out too, so make sure to go check her out. Laponkotsu, the VTuber on the phone. Nate, the mysterious voice on the air, and Sepha, the man on TV who is currently working on a horror video game. All of their links are in the description, and make sure to check them out and tell them I sent you. I also have a Patreon where you can get videos earlier than the general public, scripts, early previews, and even your name in the credits. Thank you very much to everyone who has supported already. Their names are on screen now. You've been watching Mythonics, hosted by MOOYAHT, and remember, you're never alone in the Backrooms.